I mean, let's be honest here. Can I just say something?
Okay. What are you going to say?
I mean, you're beautiful. You're an incredible person. I feel like I should just let you know. I kind of have a crush on you.
Can we bring up Carl's declaration of love to Ciara?
Yeah, how did you feel about that?
Excruciating. I thought it was awkward as hell. And, I've made some awkward as hell declarations of love to people in my time. Sometimes you got to do it. But if I had like my worst declarations of love caught on camera like that, Craig, I would be asking you to be like the guy who like finishes me off when I do seppuku. You would have to have the katana and take my head off. And that's what Carl should do. No, I'm just kidding, of course. There's no more honor since the Meiji Restoration. But that was, I thought, just a terrible, awful, awkward attempt at admitting his feelings for Ciara. He starts it off by being like, yeah, I did hook up with somebody the other night and I didn't perform at my optimal level. Like, that's how you're going to start a conversation that you're hoping is going to lead to her being like, oh my God, yes, I totally want to hook up with you. Like every step of that is like completely misjudged, completely terrible.
Friends, I can say this to you, but like, I didn't perform, I don't think, at my optimal level.
Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter. Once again, joined by Dylan Ferguson. We're going to talk about the latest episodes of Summer House and The Valley. We're going to dive right into Summer House and pick up where we left off from the previous episode, which was the end of the Snooze Fest party. Dylan, do you want to just give a little bit of a recap as to what happened here?
Yeah, quickly, Snooze Fest wraps up with kind of all the girls forming a protective shell around Lexi. They all kind of like reassure her and let her know that they're taking her aside. The boys eventually splinter off and do a cuddle puddle while they watch Zootopia on a trampoline. Carl confesses his love for Ciara sort of awkwardly. Schwartz also had like a kind of a heart-to-heart with Kyle there, which is pretty sweet. We'll get to that, I'm sure. And the next day after Schwartz leaves, we do get a little bit of a coda where Jesse and Lexi kind of talk in her place and seem to agree to be separated. And things end up with Kyle showing concern to Amanda about her uncertainty if they're going to have a child or not.
Yeah. What did you think of this episode in general? Was it
sick?
You thought it was sick?
Yeah, that was a good one. Did you not think it was a good one?
No, I thought it was. I thought it was a great one. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I love on Summer House when they have a party that is like split up, like right down the middle. We get the beginning of the party in one episode, and then the end of the party at the end. That's always like kind of the mark of an eventful weekend. And we were mentioning last episode how the theming on this party was really good. Just the vibes were great here, and I really loved it.
Yeah, it was a really good party, and yeah, you're right. It's a good one when they split it down the middle and between two episodes. Definitely the aesthetics were good, like lots of blinking lights, lots of white, lots of silk. People loved West's little sleepy dude outfit. This little kind of Ebenezer Scrooge little puttering about with a candle deal. It was definitely very fun visually, and there's a lot going on too, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, so I think we can't talk about Summer House or this episode of Summer House or even this season of Summer House without talking about Jesse and Lexi, because that's really the thread that is carrying this all through. We didn't, at the Snooze Fest party, we got them, the previous episode, we got their argument, but we see the fallout of it here. And I thought the scene that we got with the girls kind of gathering around Jesse and confronting him was really good. I'm curious what your feelings on that were.
Yeah, I thought that was really good too. It does sort of feel like we're wrapping up the Jesse and Lexi plotline, which has been kind of the dominant plotline of this season, as you said. And if they're wrapping it up here, if they're like separated and that's done, I'm okay with that. Like we've got a lot out of this relationship. This relationship that started very fast, very hot, and kind of predictably spoiled very quickly. It gave us a lot, but if we're done, I'm happy that we're done because like I feel like it's been milked and I mean we're in episode 12 right now, so there's not like a ton of runway left. I would be totally happy if we like switch gears to other plot lines on the way out, but it definitely was like a satisfying conclusion, transition, whatever it ends up being. I do love the girls like rallying around Lexi. I do like that, like Lexi kind of stands her ground. We have a bit of a like I said, there's kind of a little bit of like a little capstone near the end where Jesse kind of goes to Lexi's flat, her like barren flat with like neon writing on the wall that says something like, "If you're looking for a sign, this is it." Like she just lives in like a lame brunch spot. That's just her apartment. She's inside like that like cheesy cafe where that you pay like $10 for a Dalgona coffee. That's where she lives. And
the novelty section of Urban Outfitters is where she lives.
Yeah, we don't see her mom and her sister, so presumably she like shoved them in a closet before Jesse entered.
You didn't hear their muffled screams?
Yeah. But yeah, for me that scene, which is very brief, just kind of served as like a bit of a marker that like Lexi does plan to stick to this decision. Like Jesse seems to come in like ready to work his charm if that's like if there's an opening to like keep it like sort of uncertainly open potentially. Let's see how it goes. And she seems more or less to have her foot still firmly on the ground, which was something that I wanted to see, because like it's one thing for her to be like, oh no, like you can take your exclusivity and shove it out the window or whatever she says, and like when she's surrounded by everybody at a party and like that, and she's picked up on the fact that that's kind of what everybody wants her to do. It's another thing to do it like when it's just one-on-one,
and he comes in like groveling,
but that's kind of what you needed to see to like know if she's actually serious about it or not, or if she was just acting that way because that's like what everybody seemed to want from her in the moment. But
I don't know that this story is completely finished. Like I think that she is being, like you said, she's being very definitive about her perspective on it, but Jesse then says something to the effect of like, oh, if she wants to keep like trying, I'm open to that. Like he's ready to go another round. But this whole episode, starting from basically right after he has the confrontation with the girls, he seems like he's concussed. Like the way that he's like navigating, he just like does not have his senses about, he has no idea how to navigate the world when the whole house is turned against him. It's really interesting to see, because when he is like in a normal, like stable state, he operates very fluidly in the house. He's able to be friends with everyone and joke with everyone. But as soon as there's resistance, he just like, he seems like he crumbles and he's just completely shut down. And we see that during the confrontation the next morning, as soon as it's more than just Lexi kind of piling on him. And we see that the night before at the snooze fest, he just doesn't know how to get out of the corner that he's put himself in. And it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah. And during the snooze fest too, there's scenes of him like kind of trying to keep up his good times party vibes mode after the conversation, where he's clearly like on the outs with people, and he almost seems to be like dancing against the current with everybody. He stands out partially because he just has a head above everybody else. He's just taller than everybody, but like he seems to be like moving in a different direction from them. There's a shot of him like sort of vibing, but he seems to be completely on the outskirts, like everybody else is in the center.
Yeah.
And then when he like goes into like vibe with the girls, they like all immediately start acting like, he walked into a den of vultures, and they all start picking at him, and they all start, Ciara tells him to go fuck himself or something. And he had that coming, but you can sense that, like you say, he's kind of like struggling to deal with that feeling, which is something we haven't seen him in this situation before, really, I don't think, where it's like, where normally like his charm just always works, and just people are just always happy to have him around because he's a good times guy, he's fun to have around. And to have him like be in this party situation, which is usually his scene, this is his vibe, and it's just like people are just like kind of spoiled on him, and it's not working. It's like really interesting to see him just kind of like moving against the current and just being like, why isn't it working? What's going on? Why is everything turning against me?
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of when I was in high school and taking a class that I thought I could just skate by on without doing any studying or whatever, and just the arrogance of being like, yeah, no, I got this, I don't need to prepare for this. That's how he kind of operates socially. He's like, I can get out of any situation I find myself in. I can just talk my way out of it. It's no big deal. I'll just do whatever I want because whatever mess I get into, I can talk my way out of. And once he gets into that situation where all the girls are confronting him, he steps into the lion's den and is ready to try to make Amanda and Paige feel bad for manipulating the situation. And they jump on him immediately like, no, you can't just come and vent to us and then say, oh, I want everyone to stay out of it because you're the one bringing us into it. And he's like taken aback that he's getting some resistance here, and he doesn't know how to handle it. He just keeps digging further and further. When they talk about the comment about that he made to Ciara about, oh, if I saw you before Wested, it might be a different story. And he tries to play that off as a joke. It completely blows up in his face. He's trying to like do his normal smooth talk thing because that is what has worked for him his entire life, his entire duration on the show. That has been extremely effective for him. And when it doesn't work, he doesn't know what to do. And we see that extend to the next morning when Lexi's confronting him at the breakfast table. He comes in and is trying to like play things off and smooth things over immediately, and she is already closed off to him. Like her body language is shut off, and he registers that, and he tries to leverage the group around the table to diffuse the situation. And Gabby is there, kind of pumping up the Lexi's tires and giving her backup. And he starts immediately shutting down once Lexi wants to talk about it in front of the whole group, because he realizes that he can't leverage this group, and he completely shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say, like, he seems like he's concussed, because it's like he's in a daze and he doesn't really know how to navigate things. And then we see him, when the bell rings and the round is over, we don't see him again until he shows up at Lexi's, and he's still really beat up and bruised, and we get him in an almost like groveling stance, like asking for forgiveness and some sort of path forward. And you're right, it's awesome to see Lexi stand her ground in private, and there's a consistency there between how she is operated in front of everyone versus how she is operating privately with just him. And it's great to see. I have really loved the resolution of Lexi's arc here.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Once again, like, good on Paige for like jumping in and contesting Jesse's framing of events. Like, she does that again, like in this episode, like we saw in last episode when Jesse's trying to frame things in a way that will benefit him more. Like, she's right in there to jump in and be like, like you said, she's like, well, if you come vent to us, then you've put it out in the open, and that's going to be information that we're going to repeat if we want to, because you have made that as open information. And
not just that it's open information. You have given us this information. You have like pressed this information upon us, and that we have obligations to Lexi as a friend to let her know these things. Like it's more than just him being open with information. He is forcing this information on them and putting Amanda in a situation where she has to decide how she's going to navigate this, and who she has to be more allegiant to. He is actually bringing them into this situation. He's not just being an open book. He's pulling them into this dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and I don't think he expected it to backfire on him that much, but it's definitely fascinating to see. Yeah.
What did you like about how this was presented? Was there anything in terms of like themes or overall presentation that stood out to you?
If I'm just gonna like pick one shot as like my MVP shot, there's a moment where Lexi kind of breaks down a little bit, in her room, and there's a shot of her sitting on the floor next to her bed, and her bed's got like a bunch of shit on it, like it feels like a very lived in room, like with like her bag's been dumped onto the bed, but she's not on the bed, but she's sitting on the floor next to it, wearing like a cloud skirt with like flashing lights, and she just has a moment where she calls her sister and is like just like very vulnerably like just kind of crying to her sister on the phone. Just the way that was shot, with her kind of like crumpled on the floor next to the bed with like all these artifacts of her life scattered on the bed, these little flashing lights on her like skirt, and that was like the one shot where I really like sat up in my seat, like, wow, like this like really communicates the mental distress that Lexi is going through right now, and that kind of difficulty of dealing with what feels like very personal and like the sort of betrayal, and it was just a great shot, like that really like sold the idea that like this is such a difficult moment for Lexi, that it's not just like calculations that she's playing out the strategy of the situation, that it's like this is a vulnerable Canadian just kind of sitting on the floor next to her bed crying. That was the one shot that like really like stood out for me a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up kind of how she's dressed at that moment and in that shot, because I think we see a similar thing happen in the Valley, and we'll talk about that. But just this contrast of like a representation of fun versus extreme emotional turmoil, because we see she's dressed up in a fun, almost like costume. She's got like lights and this party atmosphere, and we're seeing her at the lowest that we have seen her over the entire time that she has been on the show. That sort of thing really elevates the emotional turmoil. I feel like when you've got that contrast, so that was really, really powerful. I also really enjoyed the inclusion of the next morning. It immediately starts off with Lindsay and Amanda are like cleaning up the kitchen and the house in order to start making everyone breakfast. And Jesse goes out and does his own thing first thing in the morning. He like goes on a run, or he goes out to like get coffee or whatever he's doing. But I like that we see, Jesse going out and looking for himself. He's putting himself as number one, and we see the girls putting everyone else, their needs before their own. Like we see him taking care of himself, and we see the girls taking care of the rest of the house. And we have seen that choice to look out for another person as opposed to doing what is easiest for yourself play out over the course of snooze fest in this episode. So I really liked that little moment that really like punctuated Jesse's character and punctuated his selfishness. The fact that, you know, Lindsay and Amanda are there looking out for everyone and taking care of things when he's only there looking out for himself.
Yeah, totally. How about Carl? Can we bring up Carl's declaration of love to Ciara?
Yeah, how did you feel about that?
Excruciating. I thought it was awkward as hell. And, you know, I've made some awkward as hell declarations of love to people in my time. You know, sometimes you got to do it. But if I had like my worst declarations of love caught on camera like that, I would, Craig, I would be asking you to be like the guy who like finishes me off when I do seppuku. You would have to have the katana and take my head off, but I would that blade would be in my stomach, and that's what Carl should do. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, there's no more honor since the Meiji Restoration, but that was, I thought, just a terrible, awful, awkward attempt at admitting his feelings for Ciara. He starts it off by being like, yeah, I did hook up with somebody the other night and I didn't perform at my optimal level. Like, that's how you're going to start a conversation that you're hoping is going to lead to her being like, oh my God, yes, I totally want to hook up with you. Like, every step of that is like completely misjudged, completely terrible. Yeah. I don't know. What did you think about that?
Yeah, no, I thought this was, like you said, it was a terrible pronunciation of love and completely ineffective. He should have been able to read her like body language, the way that like she is interacting with him. It does not give off anything that you could even interpret as romantic interest. And the fact that he just felt compelled to do that is like, it is so cringe inducing. You're right. It is so bad.
Yeah. Also, later on when they're all like cuddling and watching Zootopia, and they're like, oh, look at the giraffe just going about being tall, trying to sell stuff. That's Carl. I'm like, what are they talking? I've never seen Zootopia. I don't have kids, and so I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. So I just like Googled like giraffe Zootopia, and I just saw an image of it. I'm like, oh man, that giraffe looks like Carl. It made sense. I don't know, something about that. It's like wearing a cardigan or something, just standing very like ramrod straight, you know, just very. Carl has that like very straight posture. I don't know.
Zootopia is such a choice too. Like, how do you think they arrived at like, let's watch Zootopia? Like, the idea of like,
yeah. I want to know who insisted on it. Do I know why they chose it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's in the text. But I just assume one of them was like, "This is the movie we have to watch," and you know everybody's drunk, so they did the wise thing, which is not to be like, "Let's just browse on Netflix and see what we could find." And no, they're like, "Okay, yeah, whatever you said." But they were all stoked about it. They're all stoked to like sit on a trampoline, rolled up in duvets, giving each other hand jobs and watching a Disney movie. But yeah, I don't know how they settled on that one. Because it's also like, if you like, you know, like age wise, it's not like a movie that they would have treasured watching when they were 7 years old. Like, that movie came out like 8 years ago or something. I don't know. Like, it wasn't even, it's not like, it's neither a new release or like a classic from their childhoods. So yeah, it is slightly baffling as a choice, but whatever. They seem to dig it.
My headcanon is that this is the product of the conversation between Kyle and Tom Schwartz about how they're going to be like good dads, and they're like, yeah, we're going to be such good dads. We're going to like watch Zootopia with our kids, you know, and like I could even watch that right now. Haha. I'm joking, obviously, unless you're serious about it. Like we could watch that tonight. No,
yeah.
Unless you're serious.
That could have been, and yeah, and that could have got cut out of the conversation we saw, because what they did include was solid gold. Now that you've brought us there, I think we should get to what to me was the best part of that episode, which was the conversation between Kyle and Schwartz. I love them together. I love them both drunk together, both being like kind of pumping each other's tires and stuff. I thought that like every line of that conversation was like absolutely priceless TV right there.
Okay, what were your favorites?
Well, it starts off, I think, with Schwartz being like, "Oh, thank you so much for having me. I feel like a whole human for the first time in a long time," you know. and then Kyle's like, "Yeah, you know, you're doing great today. Like, you made your bed." and then Schwartz is like, "Yeah, you got to get your first win of the day." And Kyle's like, "Yeah, I'm going to start saying that, man. That is so true. You got to get your first win of the day." it's also good. Oh, and then also when they, when they do get around to talking about kids with Carson and Kyle's like, "Yeah, it's like I'm like 4," and he almost has his age. And he's like, I'm just a couple months older than you. And Schwartz goes, "Say it." And Kyle goes, "I'm 42," and then keeps talking. I thought it was so good. Their energies match so well that they're great together. And I love Schwartz in this episode, man. I thought he was awesome. Like I mentioned last episode that I was starting to warm up more to the idea of him being there, because even though he's like a little sad sack, a little wishy-washy, that's becoming kind of a really fun thing to watch about him. He's actually transitioned really well, I think, as like just a television personality from the kind of like adorkable, lovable goofball that he was for so many years on Vanderpump Rules, to being somebody who seems to be more and more mired in just like depression. and it is just really funny to have him going, like, just kind of going around being like, "Oh, I feel like I'm coming alive again. Like, I feel like I'm a real human being again, guys." And I love in the morning when when he walks into the girls' rooms and he's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I'm leaving, so I just wanted to say, like, thank you so much for letting me into your home, into your happy little world. You have to cherish this. I used to have a happy little world." And they're like, "Yeah, well, we'll always be friends," or whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, I used to think that too." And then he leaves, and as he's leaving, he's like, "I'm probably going to come back and say bye again." He has great TV in this episode, man. I was loving
it. Oh, that's really good. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about Jesse and Ciara here. What did you like about this conflict that we get, or how Jesse is responding to this conflict in this episode?
Well, he's making missteps because he's not used to being on the back foot, like we discussed, and his response to like why he was being flirty with Ciara is immediately not accepted as like an acceptable answer, where he just says something slightly incomprehensible about like, "Oh, but West, it was like kind of for West who wants to be like in good relations with you," or something. It just like doesn't make sense. Ciara takes it as like insulting, and rightfully so. And it doesn't. It did seem for a while like there was enough like sexual tension between those two that it's like eventually they might just find their way back to each other. At this point, it doesn't seem like there's any chance of that, just because Ciara is seems to be pretty serious about her "fuck you, Jesse" position.
Yeah, one thing that I really like is the continuation of the trend of Jesse being more focused on Ciara than he is about Lexi's feelings. I really love, as soon as Jesse comes back in from going to Starbucks or whatever it was that he was doing first thing in the morning, he comes in, he's like, Does anyone know why Ciara is mad at me besides one joke? Like he doesn't even think about Lexi until she like presents herself in the morning. It's so it's so telling about how like Lexi is this like this silver medal for him. It's
Yeah.
I don't know.
And now he kind of feels like he already has Lexi in his back pocket now, and now it's time to move on to Ciara, who he's had his eye on for a long time. Yeah, but now he's not. Doesn't look like he's going to end up with either of them right now. No.
Do you have any other highlights from this episode that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I feel like we pretty much plowed through all the main bits.
Yeah, who are your stars from this episode?
Number one, Schwartz. Loved him. It was great.
Oh, right on.
Let's give him his laurels. Yeah. Let's give a number 2 to Lexi, second star. Once again, like to see her standing strong. She did most of the heavy lifting in the previous episode, but this is a continuing storyline that she held her ground at her place. So good for her too. Why don't we give a third star to Kyle? And that's a little bit related to Schwartz too, because like again, they had that amazing moment where every line of dialogue, I was drinking it up, I was loving it. But it's also not, that conversation didn't just happen in a void, and the fact that the end of the episode is that conversation that Kyle has with Amanda, where he is newly focused on having kids after that conversation. And you also feel like part of what that conversation brought into his mind was not necessarily just like, oh yeah, I should hurry up and have kids because I'm getting old, but also like, I should have kids so I don't end up like Tom Schwartz. I feel like that might be playing into it a little bit. Like he says to Amanda, I think like in my mind, like the only true payoff is if there's like something more in my life than there is now. And like, I think like part of that is because Schwartz suggested that idea, but part of it is I think that Schwartz was the cautionary tale.
just a few months younger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll give him the third star. He was great in this too.
Yeah, those are good picks. This was such a well-rounded episode because it would be very easy to award, Jesse and Lexi stars because of the fact that, they have dominated the narrative here. But we got a lot of great stuff from Ciara as well. We got great stuff from Carl. We got that, that desperate,
right,
pouring of his heart.
Like
you said, Tom and Kyle. So I'll just shower the love around a little bit here, and I still want to give number 1 to Jesse because I am so intrigued. I feel such a variety of emotions watching him. It's really great. You made a great case for Tom Schwartz, so I would like to give him a star, and Ciara as well, who she's got a lot going on here, and I've been really enjoying her this season as well. So let's move on to the Valley. Before we do that, if you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that now. Go to YouTube and hit subscribe if you're listening on a podcast platform. We would really appreciate the love. Leave us a comment with who your stars were on Summer House. And Dylan, let's get a summary of what happened in this episode of The Valley.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's kind of framed initially as the Jax is in rehab episode, since that's how we ended the last one. So he is off on the sidelines. He he is not here with us. We get a little bit more about Michelle moving on with the honey guy, Aaron. And really, it's all just like pulling us into this Dave and Buster's evening for Janet's birthday party, where everybody plays games. And Michelle finds out through Luke, through Danny, that Jesse has been saying that she has been sleeping with a billionaire for $1,500 a night, which, of course, infuriates her, but also brings up questions about the sanctity of the boys' chat and the breaches of protocol surrounding the sacred institution.
Yeah, I love this episode. I think the Valley is firing on all cylinders right now. I thought it was really fantastic. Was there anything about how this was presented or the themes here that really stood out to you?
The Dave and Buster's setting is great. It's fun. All these like flashing lights and colors and noises, just all this distraction and just like all, it really just sets the stage for this kind of like gamification of everybody's lives. And yeah, it's just fun to have like everybody just like trying to strategize as they try to get their lives on track in this like milieu of like everybody trying to win prizes and get scores, while Janet insists that it's impossible to be unhappy at Dave and Buster's while everybody around her is unhappy at Dave and Buster's.
That's interesting. The idea, or just the exploration of this idea of kind of this social gamification, because I didn't tie that into Dave and Buster's, but yeah, obviously that's fantastic. I love that. I thought that this was really strong in terms of the whole visual storytelling from the opening, where we have this kind of like kaleidoscope view of fountains, and Jack's leaving the car, Brittany is watching Cruz, and we see this information kind of moving around about like Jack's going into rehab, and just kind of the group shifting around. I really, really loved that effect. It felt like you were watching this information spread out like beams of light in a kaleidoscope. I really love that. I also really love the scene that we get where Jesse has Kristen and Luke over, and it opens up with Jesse like trying to like stack croissants, and he's like making his house and trying to build up this flimsy structure that he can be at the top of socially, because that is what he is doing socially. So I really enjoy that.
And it totally works on Kristen too. Kristen's like, wow, yeah, I'm so sold on Team Jesse. I mean, if Michelle was doing all this, then I'd be on her side. Like, doing all what? Buying 6 croissants? Like, oh, we're back.
We're back. I mean, Michelle could win Kristen with just, offering her some honey, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I hear she has a contact for that.
Yeah.
I did really like Jesse putting that together, and the way he describes it. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And she says she knows a place in Runyon, and then they're like, the fucking honey guy. I just really like that she's dating the honey guy.
Yeah, but this idea of this really kind of ramshackle structure, a really like unstable structure, is something that is at the core of this episode, and this like idea of the boys chat being something that should be sacred and be like this vault and something that's stable, and it's obviously really not. So I just really like that inclusion. Not saying that it's necessarily intentional, but I do really enjoy that it tied in there. But I think the one thing that I really liked was how this conflict surrounding the boys chat was seated in this episode. I like that we got this scene between Danny and Luke where Luke entrusts Danny with some like secret information, and in return, Danny entrusts Luke with, this other secret information. And yeah, the fact that Luke is feeling, or the fact that like Danny is taking this, this trust that's placed in him seriously and not spreading the information, and Luke immediately goes and like spills it. I don't know. I really liked it.
Yeah. So who do you think's more at fault for breaking the sanctity of the group's chat, which I think is the actual phrase that Jesse uses? The sanctity of the group chat. Is it more Luke's fault, or is it more Danny's fault for breaking containment?
I mean, ultimately it's Jesse's fault for like saying it in the first place.
That's not what I mean. Yeah, obviously it's Jesse did the thing, but who broke the sanctity of the structure? Assuming there is such a thing outside of Jesse's mind as the sanctity of the group chat. I'm sure Jax feels the same way, but
yeah, well, Danny, if we're going to look at that, I think like Danny was the one who is like the made man. He is invited in. He is the one that has taken the pledge of allegiance to the group chat. So,
right. I think the rules apply more to him because he is an initiate.
Yeah, exactly. Luke isn't in the group chat. He's got no reason to uphold the code of the guys chat. So, I don't think he's getting a membership now. Like maybe if he would have played his cards right, he would have got in there, but no, not going to happen now.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Who do you think?
I mean, it was definitely impolitic of Luke to like immediately like scurry off and dump the information at the first opportunity. But the thing is, like, even if Danny thought that he could expect Luke to conserve that information, if this is really like a sanctuary, like he just told that to Luke like on a 1-on-1 scene on camera. Like it's not like like he can't act like, oh, I told you that in private, and like no, you did a scene with him and you decided to say the information in the scene. Like, so obviously
totally
you seem to have to want that information to be out. Otherwise you wouldn't have done that. Right. Like, no. Though I do like your read that it's like a tit for tat thing, that he like was grateful that Luke was sharing a secret with him. So he felt like, oh, now I've got to produce a secret to return the favor.
It doesn't become real until Danny says it in front of the camera. Like nothing is real until it is observed. It's like quantum physics, and it's in a superposition until it's actually like observed by something. And so Danny is what made this information real. So I think ultimately it falls back to him if we're like you and a Jesse defender who is like protecting him from any blame in this situation.
I think this was like a rough episode for Danny, right? Like this is for the first time, I think this is the first time we've had an episode where Danny like really kind of gets dragged through the mud. I think he's mostly come off as like kind of just like a sweet dorky guy. And this episode early on, we hear about him like getting too drunk and sexually harassing his friends. And then we transition to him divulging information that was supposed to be secret, and he takes it hard, which is why I'm like, why did you do it? Because the fact that he did that in a scene, like I said, it feels like I would think it would be calculated. Like he did that on purpose, didn't he? But he seems to take this very hard, and there's a confessional moment where he's like reflecting on it, where he seems like so torn up, and he just delivers the most like heartfelt but also dorky, like, dang it. that I loved. But I also just loved his facial expressions, like after Luke says it, and he has to like shuffle off to Jesse and be like, "Gonna have to tell you what happened, Jesse," because he is
Daddy
like
made a mistake.
Yeah, yeah, and because he is like he does seem kind of like intimidated by the big assholes in this gang, right? Like, I mean, both Jesse and Jax, the two big loudmouth assholes that kind of like preside over that group. He is like, he doesn't want to cross them. I don't think he doesn't want to like be in their bad books. So I thought like it really came off as him like shuffling over with like just like every step he walked towards Jesse, he felt like he was like walking on broken glass to be like, I gotta tell him that I that I said something that happened in the group chat. So yeah, I enjoyed watching Danny's face throughout this whole episode because we're not used to see him like kind of going through shit. And this episode he went through shit.
Yeah. Do you believe Jesse when he says that he put this out there to like smoke the mole out of the group chat?
Of course not. No.
No?
No, he put that out there because he's trying to slander Michelle. That's what he's doing. He's completely focused, I think, on trying to do everything he can to damage his ex-wife.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it was put into the group chat with the express intent of trying to smoke out a mole. But I was just wanting to see how Jesse pilled you were since you've been defending him pretty hard lately. It's not a good look.
Just trying to get inside his head. Just trying to imagine how that works up in there.
What other highlights did you have from this episode?
I definitely really like Michelle's play at the end of it. Like I really like seeing Michelle go into like hard like strategy mode, like when she like gets this information that Jesse's been slandering her and basically accusing her of being a prostitute. It, you know, she gets emotional, she cries a bit, but she immediately just starts switching into like political.
Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly the word I was going to use. We started to say that she turns into like Mitch McConnell or something and immediately starts going by around and be like, do I have your vote? Do I have your vote? Do I have your vote? And no, but like good on her to like come up with that on her feet to be like, okay, this is going to be my play. We're going to ice like Jesse out of the house he rented for the activity he planned. That's going to be, and to try to make it legitimate, I'm going to try to get everybody individually to agree with me while they're getting drunk at this arcade. And she goes about doing it. She doesn't quite pull it off, but I love that play. I love that like strategic thinking. I love that pivot from like, I am so pissed off and upset and about this to like, what am I going to do to try to like wrest as much high ground as I can out of this? Like, how am I going to turn this into something that'll give me an advantage in my all out war with my asshole ex-husband right now, this evening, starting immediately. Let's get to work. Let's roll up the sleeves and start getting votes for this. I love that.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. So my immediate reaction was like, oh, I really wish that she would have like taken some time on this and thought about it a bit more as opposed to acting right away, because it feels like a pretty weak response to be like, yeah, Jesse can still come, but he's got to stay in a hotel. That's like, I'm trying to get votes for that. It's also like such a tough sell to people because, you know, if Jesse is the one that rented the house, it's going to be very hard to make a case to people that Jesse should stay in a hotel when he's already paying for the house. Like,
yeah,
I think that it's just a tough platform to campaign on. I think that she could have gone with either a stronger response in terms of like, we're boycotting this trip. we're going to go somewhere else. And if she would have like taken the time to like think about it a bit more, she could have gone in that direction. Or if she wanted to play within the bounds of the trip, I think that there could have been a move to be like, we're all going to go to a hotel. Who's with me to go to like this hotel, or rent another like cabin, so that like there is a visual divide between, you know, the people that are in Michelle's house versus the people that are in Jesse's house.
Yeah.
I just think that there could have been a stronger play here, but
I think
the end result, I think, is better that it went the way that it did. Like, to see her actually going around for votes immediately in this emotional state, I thought that was really great. Like, it reminded me of watching Big Brother a lot, when you've got people that are desperately trying to get the votes to stay in the house or to evict someone, like really see how people sit within the social structure. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was extremely bold of her to like try to pull off that kind of move to evict the person throwing the event from the event. But I feel like she calculated that she needed to do something that bold, because if like she and just peeled away some people and they went to a hotel, that would read just as them hiding away, because she knows that the event would still go on, that most of the airtime would be given over to the event, and that she and anybody who came with her would look like they were just like that they had fled, that they had hidden. I think she calculated that moment, like the event's going to go ahead, the people who actually go to the event are going to look like the winners, are going to be look like the ones who are on the stage that are justified in that sense. So I have to find a way to kick Jesse off the stage rather than leave the stage myself. That's the way I interpreted the calculation, which was probably too ambitious to think that she could pull that off, but I still love that the like kind of instant calculation to think that I can at least try, that I'm going to try to pull that off right now in the moment.
Yeah, I feel like she could have. I feel like she has the capital to actually pull something off if she wanted to think about it. Like, if she were, I think that she could get a majority. Like, if they were actually had to vote on evicting someone from the cast, I feel like she could pull a majority onto her side here. And if she wasn't so hasty about how she tried to orchestrate it, and had a bit better of a narrative to sell the people that she's trying to gather votes from, I think that the fact that there's an additional entity being the house in Jesse's name, like the house that Jesse has rented, that is something that she didn't really factor into this calculation, and forced the kind of tipped the scales in Jesse's favor. But I think that if she came up with a solid plan, she could pull Janet on her side very easily, which would pull Janet's puppy dog Jason. I think that she could pull Brittany over as well. Who else did we see her talk to that was open to the idea?
Yeah, Brittany for sure. Janet agrees, but Janet agrees just because she's like, okay, yeah, I'm winning right now. So whatever you're saying, I agree to it, because, just stop distracting me. I'm winning at my game. Janet is just locked into whatever she's playing and doesn't even pay attention to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, but I think Janet's like closest relationship to Jesse is by way of Jason, like somewhat getting along with Jesse. No?
Yeah, probably. But yeah. She seemed to agree to it in the moment, but like if it actually came down to it, who knows? But yeah, just having Brittany is already very important, because Brittany has a lot of pull too at the moment. Obviously,
think, like,
not Kristen.
Janet would be eager to isolate Kristen. Like, she would be really eager to do what she can to, have Kristen sitting in a house alone with Jesse, and them being the only people there, or Kristen Zach and Jesse being the only ones stuck in a house. I think she could have done it. I think she could have done it if she, sat on it a bit more. But still, really, really interesting to watch her go around and do that.
And that also shows just how much Kristen has committed to being Team Jesse, because she immediately like scampers over to Jesse to be like, here's what Michelle's saying. Do you have any more of those croissants, by the way?
Yeah. the croissant structure, to go back to the croissant structure, and I'm sure everyone is tired of me talking about this fucking croissant structure. But this idea of these like precarious structures is throughout this episode. And I am now convincing myself that it is intentional that there is focus on this, because this social structure is the focus of Michelle's politicking. And we see that also intercut with another precarious structure, being that stack of coins that Janet is trying to get to topple in this coin pusher that they keep keying in on, and we're waiting to see kind of spill. So yeah, maybe definitely the croissants are in there on purpose. The croissant structure, that is intentional. I'm sticking to it. Leave a comment if you disagree. What other highlights did you have from this episode?
I do like how Kristen reacts to Janet calling her like it's like she's mortified by that. She puts her on speakerphone and then acts as if her voice is like a xenomorph alien breathing in her ear. It's just a great performance of exaggerated disgust.
Yeah, grasping onto Luke's hand as tight as she possibly can. Like, you can see her knuckles getting like whiter by the second. Yeah, I think we covered most of my highlights. Who are your stars from this episode? I'm
going to give number one to Michelle. Once again, like the play, a lot of emotion from her. Like the previous episode as well, we've seen lots of raw emotion from her, but I just like how she instantly translated it to action. I like how bold it is. I like how ready she is to fight. So I'll give her number one. I'll give number two to Danny. Big episode for him. A lot of mortified, awkward, painful facial expressions. Had a good time looking at Danny. I thought we saw him in a different light this episode. And let's give a third star to Christian, who I also thought had a good, fun episode. There's a lot of good Christian moments. I like when she describes talking about marriage to Luke by saying, like, yeah, I told him, like, well, he didn't know it was a Taylor Swift lyric, but that I would marry him with a paper ring. Just like, she was a lot of fun, I thought.
Yeah, I think those are good picks. Just for some variety, I am going to give my number one star to the plate of croissants. For obvious reasons. Number two, I think Danny is someone that we're not going to be probably giving stars to very frequently, but yeah, he was pivotal this episode. One thing that we didn't talk about was the dynamic between him and Nia when this information comes up. I really loved how that was treated. We got just the glances that Nia was giving Danny when he was like pulled over to like corroborate it, and him having to come over knowing that he was in trouble, just this, you could feel that situation where you're in like a fight with your partner and you're in public, and you know that it's going to be a thing later in the night, but you're not gonna like have this argument at Dave and Buster's. Like the glances that she was shooting Danny after he like says, yeah, that's actually true, that was said. I really liked that dynamic. It felt very very real. There's the tension there I really liked a lot. And yeah, I think Michelle also deserves a star as well, for the reason, like, she was who we have spent most of this episode talking about. So yeah, she deserves a star as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, that I think about covers it for this week. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find some of my
besides Jesse's group chat.
I thought you were going to say Jesse's asshole. You can find some of my writings about movies on my Substack. You can just look for my name, Dylan Ferguson.
I'm Craig Midwinter. You can just find me on our Instagram at Bravo Outsider, or TikTok, Bravo Outsider. Be sure to leave a comment and hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, head on over to our YouTube. And until next week, keep on wiping.